Welcome to Culture Under Fire with Marjorie Waldo, making a case for the arts. This is episode 2, The Arts Mean Business. Today, we're going to talk for a little bit about art is not just about beauty, it's also about business. And we're going to look at data and a national perspective on how the arts drive economic development. And I'm fortunate to have Morgan Fernari from the American for the Arts Action Fund. She is the manager with that fund, which is a national organization, right?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Morgan Fernari, and yes, I've been working for the organization for about 6 years, and we are a national organization working on advocacy on the federal level.
That's really cool. So why are you interested in the arts? What's your background? I mean, give me some personal stuff first.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited to be on this podcast because I am a native Floridian myself. I was born and raised in Miami, Florida, where I danced my entire life from the age of 3 and to this day. And it's so wonderful because I still get to choreograph here in the area, back where I go back and forth for work up in DC. And it's great to be able to still put my creative energy into the community that raised me.
The arts really change things for people, I think, and I think it changes your perspective on your life when you're involved in something. For me, it was literature and then theater. Yeah. And I'm from Key West originally. I was born in Key West, so we're fellow South Floridians.
Yes,
born in South Florida. Okay, so can you tell us a general overview of what Americans for the Arts Action Fund does?
Yes, absolutely. So just starting kind of from a granular level, we are an affiliate organization of Americans for the Arts, which is also a national organization, but they are a 501c3 charity nonprofit organization, which is a wonderful engine to be able to continue to advocate in this country. But there's this kind of added need for a more political arm. So we were created as an affiliate organization, the Americans for the Arts Action Fund, and we're created as a 501c4 social welfare nonprofit.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Which that means that we have an unlimited budget on lobbying, and then we have a 49.9% budget on being able to do electoral work, which allows us to reach into advocacy and legislation and that political mindset, just all that much more. And that way, when we have people becoming members or we have people donating, their money fuels and funds putting their love and passion into the work of what happens in their community.
That's really cool. And I know that as the leader of Arts Garage, I'm the president and CEO there for 9 years.
Yeah.
This year, it's 9 years. I can't believe it.
Congratulations.
And I know that we use a lot of what Americans for the Arts pushes out. And
Absolutely.
we've begun more recently, to pay more attention to what the Arts Action Fund is doing. So it's very helpful throughout the country, I think. There is a push, I think, to save money and have more conservative fiscal budgets, which is not a bad thing in and of itself, to reduce the amount of government support of the arts, which makes it really tricky, especially for small organizations like Arts Garage. We're about a $2 million budget. And we do a lot of work in 10,000 square feet and with $2 million and have a big staff. And we feel like we're doing our share of economic engine work in South Florida and community-driven work. Yeah. But it really helps to have the guidance of organizations at the national level for a couple of reasons. The first one is that I don't feel so isolated.
Right.
We know that it's something many people, that the challenges we're facing and the beauties of the work are universal to all of us, which is really cool.
Yeah. And if I can talk to that a little bit.
Please.
I think that's what makes the Arts Action Fund a really special organization, because our goal isn't necessarily about funds. It's about activation, and it's about mobilizing people, citizen grassroots advocates for a common cause. Something that we see so much is this is an enormous country, and I think people forget that so much. And within states and counties and towns, locals, within all of those different spaces, there are different needs. So if we're all able to come together and say, wait, this is one large common need that we all have, and we have this collective message around it that we can all agree on, that's a really powerful thing. And so although we all have different needs, although we need customization, although we need translation in different ways, we can all agree on this. And so that kind of advocacy engine, that idea that we can all be part of something, especially right now, that unifying underlying message, I think that's really important to keep us going.
I think so too. And I think for those of us that are smaller organizations, we do not have the room in our budget to support any kind of advocacy at a state level or lobbying or things like that. We rely on organizations like yours and some state and local organizations to help us better understand how we should target our efforts to help the bigger picture for the arts and culture world.
Absolutely. That strategy is so, so vital. And I know that you all are in contact with the Florida Cultural Alliance, who does incredible work. And we absolutely support what they do. And we love working with our state and regional, not only captains and advocacy captains, but leaders in those communities. Because
Jennifer
like you just
Jones
said,
is amazing.
Exactly.
That's the Florida
yes.
Cultural Alliance. She's amazing, and I'm going to try to get her down here for a podcast
Good.
episode too.
Shout out, Jennifer.
Yeah. I'll send her this so that she can listen in and hear her shout out.
Yes.
We're also going to have Dave Lawrence for episode 3, I think, who's the CEO of the Cultural Council for Palm Beach.
Yes.
And they do a lot of beautiful work. And they also rely on the information that you all are providing us.
Yeah.
So it's helpful at an incredible level. How long has Americans for the Arts been around? When was that formed?
So Americans for the Arts itself has been around 60 plus years.
Okay.
And, it started as kind of separate organizations that were all able to merge. But when you talk about the Arts Action Fund, we were actually created in 2005.
Okay.
And there have been these waves of, when there's a 501c3 out there, they can only reach so far. 501c3s can only do 5% of lobbying work. Budgetarily, right? But then they needed that extra reach. We're competing with advocacy against these large corporations that have super PACs, right? How do people who are working on a nonprofit budget, salary, IRS restrictions in that way, how do you compete with a super PAC, right? And so the Arts Action Fund is that first step that reaches into that realm. And there are more from there on too, but
super important because we're not just competing with other arts organizations when we really shouldn't be competing. We should be sister organizations that support each other.
Absolutely.
But we're competing against other nonprofit missions. So to have a voice for us in arts and culture specifically, I think is really meaningful.
Yeah. And I want to go back to that word competing, because I don't want us to feel that we're competing, because I think the arts and culture as an industry, as, with organizations that are tasked with supporting that industry, I think we are in tandem with so many other nonprofits and industries. I think some people can look at the funding and say, oh, we're competing for funding. Well, that's not all necessarily true. And as we go into the data points that we're going to talk about, we're going to see how all of these industries really do impact one another, and they all turn into one another. And it goes into this idea about livable communities.
It's a really good point that you bring up, because people move to cities for multiple reasons. And a vibrant art and culture environment is part of that.
Absolutely.
In Florida, often it's a beach. Yes. And Delray Beach, where Arts Garage is located, is the top in the state for a couple of years running. And it's sports and lots of other things. So when you talk, for example, about tourist development taxes, which is a state issue more than a federal one for us, then you know that it's not just advertising this incredible stuff for the arts. It's for a lot of things that make people want to visit and spend their money here, and people who want to live here.
Absolutely.
It's a really important thing. So we do intersect. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I mean, that's a beautiful segue into some economic impact numbers if we want to get into that.
I would love it.
Okay, wonderful.
I kind of wanted to ask you, so
Yeah,
I'm going to
please.
make you
No,
back
please.
up, though. I wanted
No,
to
go
ask,
ahead.
why did you want to work? I think I could answer the question for you, but I want you to
Right.
say it. Why
Yeah.
did you take it from being a dancer and choreographer and teacher to wanting to work with the Arts Action Fund?
Absolutely. Wow. It's a big question, right? And I've talked to so many artists that have turned advocate. There's so many of us out there. And it's such a powerful thing because, you go to school, you study your craft for all this time, and you can take whatever path that you see fit, right? So for me personally, I was a double major and I was in DC. I went to the George Washington University in Washington, DC, which of course you move there and you're immediately smacked in the
Yes.
face by politics.
Yes, for sure.
And advocacy, and just being 18 and starting to learn, what does our country really look like? How is the makeup of our country built? And a lot of it is built in Washington, D.C., on Capitol Hill. And so when I was learning and growing and forming my frontal lobe, advocacy became a really big part of my life in multiple realms, in multiple social justice issues that are really personally important to me. And dance was a huge engine and a motive force for that. And combining those two things together and learning that Americans for the Arts and the Arts Action Fund even existed, something
Right.
I didn't know existed.
Right.
And many artists that I've met along the way, especially during COVID, when they were for the first time reaching out for help where they had never needed it before,
Mm-hmm.
and learning that we even existed.
Mm-hmm.
That's a gap that is so interesting and strange to me, because when you're in school learning your art form, you're not learning about how to be your own business, about how to market yourself,
Absolutely.
about advocacy, how to advocate for yourself at the local, state, or federal level, right? So that gap really intrigued me, and it brought me into this sense of, we need to bridge this. How do we bridge this gap in knowledge to bring artists into the forefront and understanding how to communicate what they need in a form of legislation, advocacy, and all these other things?
I think that's really cool. I think for most of us, when we're, as a theater major, I think most of the people I know in theater arts or visual arts, they're mainly advocating. They learn, how do you say it? They learn how to advocate by trying to convince their parents that they've chosen a worthwhile profession,
I've done that too.
And I think that's a good stomping ground to practice for when you move to DC.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so now talk to me about the economy. And we're talking
right.
about the federal level. I'll use other episodes to talk about state and county and local.
Yes.
Talk to me about the economic drivers that the arts create.
Yeah, so absolutely. So I'm going to talk about it in two different realms. I'm going
Okay.
to talk about for-profit and nonprofit together.
Okay.
And then I'm going to talk about nonprofit specifically.
Okay.
Because they are two different forms and two different kind of economic driving numbers. So first I'm going to talk about that for-profit and nonprofit arts.
Okay.
So the Bureau of Economic Analysis, they partner with the National Endowment for the Arts to get this research to us. And the data that we now have that came out in April is from 2023. So the Bureau of Economic Analysis is always just a little bit behind. Right now, we're facing a situation where we don't know if we're going to get this data anymore. And the answer is
I was going to interrupt you because if the NEA is one of the partners, the NEA has been slashed
Yes.
significantly in the last 6 months or so.
So it has been slashed in terms of staff. Yes.
Okay.
Not yet in terms of funding.
Good.
And we can talk
Okay.
about that as well.
Okay.
About our what we know about Congress right
Okay.
now and what's happening.
All right.
But in terms of this study, I'm going to say this number, and I think it has such impact. $1.2 trillion. That's the arts and culture industry. And what gets me every time, that's nationally a larger number than the transportation industry in this country. And my favorite, utilities.
Really?
Yes. And when you say utilities, you say, okay, well, what does that mean? To me, it represents a necessity. Utilities, we've got electricity on right now, the lights, the water, the sinks, everything.
Right.
Utilities, right? It's a necessity. It's in our everyday lives. We take it for granted a lot of the times, but we know that it's a necessity.
Right.
why aren't we treating the arts like it's a necessity when it's a larger industry in this country?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I think it's part of what motivated us to begin this podcast is trying to make sure that people know what we're doing for our communities that you can't see if you just come to a show or go to a gallery exhibit. You don't realize that there's a lot of money being driven into the nation because of these venues and arts and culture organizations.
Yes, absolutely.
1.2 trillion. Okay.
Trillion.
Okay.
I mean, and it's great because I've been studying these numbers for the past 6 years, and I've seen them grow and grow and grow.
Right.
And when we hit that trillion, I said, wow, that's a number that's going to not only catch the attention of civilians, but of our Congress members. That's a number that shows strength and impact. And it makes me feel very proud to look down and see
Absolutely.
that, right?
Absolutely.
And with that comes also the jobs that it supports. 5.4 million jobs in this country are supported by the arts and culture industry. That's humongous. That's huge. And it's one of those things that stops you and it says, okay, what is that in comparison? Well, I told you those comparison industries. You see transportation every day. It's what you have to use to get to work. It's utilities, what you see in your home and your offices. And the arts are just as present everywhere you go. And they are so taken for granted. They're seen as a luxury. They're seen as, oh, well, I don't have money to do this. Oh, this is flippant, doesn't make sense in this economy. Well, look at how it benefits the economy. Look at the driver it is.
Well, it's one of the things that'll help the economy bounce back, survive, grow. It has a huge impact, let alone the mental health, social, all of that,
And
those benefits. We can talk about that all day, but that's not our job today. But, you know, if you look at just the money that it's bringing into the nation, and you can drill those numbers down, the state, and in the third episode of the podcast, we'll talk to Dave Lawrence from the Cultural Council, and he'll tell us about the county, Palm Beach County's numbers.
Wonderful.
We're all a little nervous, I think, because we know this, and we need to find a way to make sure the people who are making decisions know this.
Yes.
Talk to us about how the Arts Action Fund does that.
Absolutely. Let's go down that path.
Let's go. Let's be careful. Let's be careful.
No, I'm ready. So one of my favorite things about my job is the lobbying aspect of it. It's about actually taking the research, the evidence that we have, and putting it into action by not only translating it for our members of Congress, but also making sure that citizens know that their voices and their stories are so, so important. They're vital, but they also need to include that data point to drive it home.
For sure.
So we have those two levels. We have our kind of Arts Action Center where we encourage people to write messages to their members of Congress, where we have them call in, we have scripts, we have already customized letters that you can further customize to make sure that your voice and your tone is heard. And then we have the lobbying aspect. So on the day-to-day, our government affairs team members are working and going to Capitol Hill. They have close relationships with their members of Congress. But we are a national organization, and who Congress really responds to is their constituents. So one of our programs that we've been doing the last 3 years, we've kind of had to shift our strategy.
Right.
In the past, we've done something called National Arts Advocacy Day, and I know that states across the country do an advocacy day of their own.
There is. Florida does the same.
Yes. And so those are really vital. But when we were bringing hundreds of people to Capitol Hill in D.C., it was on their dime, their time, to train hundreds of people to get in these meetings.
Oh, yeah.
You're only getting these kind of top line general points across.
Yeah.
You're making noise, for sure. But noise right now, everyone's making a lot of noise. So how can we better fit the messaging to that member of Congress, right? It's about the relationship building. And so our constituents, so we're able to now fund people coming in and being our constituent And we attend every meeting with them as backup to uplift their messaging, to make sure that we're on the same page, to make sure that they get in the room with their official or a very high-level member of their staff, right?
That's very cool.
And we're able to get so much more detailed with them.
You know, there's something I learned in the last, let's say it's been a year now.
Mm-hmm.
So we lost some state funding
Yes.
with a big veto in June of 24.
Mm-hmm.
And when we did a special fundraising campaign to sort of recoup some of the dollars we'd budgeted for that we weren't going to receive from the state,
Yes.
we did a call to action, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, we shared what had happened. It wasn't lobbying. It wasn't politically motivated, and it didn't talk about any of that. Just fact-based, we lost this much money.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the people who donated had no idea that we had lost it.
Yes.
In the first place. They didn't know about the veto. And yet they were longtime customers of Arts Garage and other venues. So education is a big part of that.
Oh my gosh. It is so huge. And I want to answer what you've just said on multiple levels. So on the fly-in part that I was discussing, we're bringing in constituents, but we're also bringing in people who were grantees of funding.
Right.
Not at the state level like you just said.
Federal level.
But federal level. But I want to explain really quickly as an educational moment that the National Endowment for the Arts funds direct grants at the national level, but it also is able to fund indirect grants because the National Endowment for the Arts grants money to states as well.
Right.
So from those states, they then decide to grant out to their communities, right?
Right.
So with that, you have national funding that can trickle down to these different points and then eventually get to that grantee, right? So somebody might get a grant from the state and that money was funded by the National Endowment for the Arts.
Right.
What's really important about that is that what happens on the national level impacts everyone, even if you're on the local level.
Absolutely.
Right? So when we're talking about education, when people are coming in and we're training them before we bring them to the Hill, even if they are doing this every day, if they are directly impacted, there is still so much they don't know about the inner workings of the federal government. And then you go down to the state or local levels, and you have another grouping of governments. You have the city government, you have the state government, the county governments that each have their own different ways of working.
And there's no way that a regular person who's working to make a living and take care of their families and live a good life has time to learn about all of it.
No.
So if you don't have an organization that can compile that data for you to give you some of those talking points,
absolutely,
it's really difficult.
Yeah, and that's why we're service organizations, right? I think that word sometimes is seen very lightly, but it's the idea that we are all doing this job because we know we are providing a service and offering up education and allowing that to come through, plus saying, and we need you. You need both. You can't just say, we need you, this is what's going on.
Right.
We need to educate people so that they feel that they are a part of the conversation, they are a part of the solution, which they are.
And it'll give each of our organizations and organizations like Americans for the Arts or the Department of Cultural Affairs at the state or the Cultural Council for Palm Beach or whatever that is, it gives all of us an exponential reach when we do that.
Yeah.
One of the things I've learned is that one of the important things we can do is invite legislators from our area into our organizations.
Yes.
Because there's often a disconnect between a really responsible politician who's fiscally holding themselves accountable to make it better for their constituents and for their state or nation or local government. And they may or may not connect how their fiscal decision at the state level or national level will trickle down to the organization, just use Arts Garage, how does that decision trickle down to what they maybe they love Arts Garage, they've been to Arts Garage, they're a patron, or maybe they've heard about it from their friends, but they may not understand the connection between their vote for fiscal conservancy, which we need, right? We need to take care of what we have and make sure it lasts a long time. But figuring out how to manage that wisely is tricky, and without the personal touch.
And you know what it's about? It's about creating your message around what that person cares about. And for the person you are discussing, it's about showing how the arts are an investment in their communities, not only in the livable aspects, but financially. And that kind of takes me to the other study that I wanted to talk about.
Okay,
if you're ready to go that
tell
way.
Tell me.
Okay, so I'm really excited about this study, not only because it's a study by Americans for the Arts.
Okay.
So I love shouting out the incredible work that our research team does. But also, it's about nonprofits specifically. And it's this holistic study that takes into account the impact of the arts and culture sector, not just what it makes on its own.
Okay.
So it's called the Arts and Economic Prosperity 6 study.
We use it every year.
Oh, good. I'm so thrilled.
The calculator, and I didn't bring my numbers, so you'll have to tell us about it.
I am ready with
Okay,
them.
go for it. Go for it.
So I'm going to talk about national level first, and then
Yes.
I do have the Florida numbers as
Okay.
well for you. And just some overview for people that maybe are hearing about this study for the first time. This study was conducted in 2022, and it included 373 regions across all 50 states and Puerto Rico.
Pretty impressive.
Yes, and it's the largest and the most reach we've had in an arts and economic prosperity study in the past. And it also, what I really love is that it doesn't limit to population size. It ranges all population sizes, all communities, rural, suburban, urban, large cities, small, everything, right? So it really covers that ground. And for just the nonprofit sector, the economic impact is $151.7 billion.
$151.7 billion. Okay.
Billion. And, some people ask me, well, if it's nonprofit, aren't they not supposed to make a profit? What would that economic impact be, right? And the point of this study was about how the arts and culture within a community generates economic activity, right? So my favorite thing is going through what happens, what's the experience of attending an arts event. So let's talk about a concert.
Okay.
If someone buys a ticket to a concert, they're not just walking to the concert, sitting down and leaving and going back home. Maybe they are. That'd be great.
Sometimes.
That would be lovely if we could all just walk.
Right.
But that's not necessarily the case, right? We have families. We have families that have children. They have to pay for babysitting, right? So that's a cost. Then they take an Uber because they want to have a little fun that night, right? So they take that Uber and they want to have dinner first. So they go to their favorite local restaurant and they are having a special night. So they splurge a little bit. Then they take another Uber, they get to the concert venue, they eat at maybe the local places, they buy something from the merch stand. Maybe there's people selling things outside because they know that there's an arts event going on inside. There's all this drive. Then after you see the event, it was wonderful. You either want to continue the night, you go out, maybe you're tired, you just need a bottle of water, you go to the local bodega, you buy a snack, you go home. Whatever it may be, if you want to talk and go to the local coffee shop all night and discuss what you just saw or watched or enjoyed. There's all these places in which that one arts event drew in economic activity into other places.
Well, and that doesn't even count when you buy your ticket and you pay your ticket fees. You are supporting part of what that full-time equivalent job number that you gave earlier nationally, 5.4 million jobs are created. Part of that is through paying artists for their work, paying for hotel rooms in a local establishment so they can stay overnight, paying your staff, who is the front of house that runs the show, your cleaning people, your insurance people, your photographer or videographer.
Absolutely.
All of these people are local to your community and they're earning in addition to restaurants, parking fees, et cetera, they're earning through this this ticket purchase.
Yeah, absolutely. And, with a nonprofit standpoint, you also have government tax revenue. So we were talking about that investment, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
especially for decision makers, lawmakers.
Yes.
That investment back into the community just from purchasing that ticket and doing everything that is included in that experience. On average, for the nation, it's $29.1 billion.
Unbelievable.
That's a huge number of just tax revenue. And that doesn't include the other pieces that we discussed, right? So when you're buying that one ticket, you are investing in your community even more than just that.
For sure. And it also doesn't capture the livability of cities because, you in Arts Garage is in the one mayor called it the 50-yard line of the city of Delray Beach, right? It's almost dead center, and which is an incredible location. So people might go eat overlooking the ocean, take a walk on the beach. We're bringing something to the table that makes our locals or tourists pay attention to what we offer as a community. And it draws other. Where did you go on vacation? Well, I went to Delray Beach, and man, we drove down to Miami for the day, and that was awesome. But we also were able to do everything we wanted for 3 days by walking in a 5 or 6 block radius in Delray.
Right.
And there was amazing art or culture or music or theater or dance right there.
Absolutely.
So it brings people to the table, and that's part of those numbers sound stunning, but I think the disconnect for most of us is we don't understand, first of all, that we're driving this economic influx, right? But also that pays for your roads. It pays for your stoplights. It pays for your city hall and your fire department and your police department. That's what those revenues bring.
Absolutely.
So it's a direct impact on all the citizens that live in each of our communities.
Yeah, and I think you've brought up an incredible point about local attendees versus non-local attendees. And I have some numbers to back up what I really want to talk about with that.
Okay.
Is that a local attendee, on average, not including the cost of the ticket for the arts event, they spend $29.77 dollars. So $29.77, sorry, going into the data. Then you go to a non-local, and that doubles. That's $60.57. And that, again, is not including the cost of the ticket for the arts event.
And this is per person, and it's an average.
Yes.
If you look at a place like Delray Beach, the impact's even greater.
There you go.
Because it would be difficult to park and pay for your gasoline from your house or your Uber and buy dinner for as little as $60.
Right.
So I've calculated it for us, and it's probably closer to $70 per person. And about 60% of our customers say they go out to dinner or shop or do something before or after the show.
Absolutely. It's part of the experience.
Yep.
It's part of what drives people in. And when asked, we had a kind of survey social part of this as well. And 77% of non-local attendees said that they traveled there specifically for the arts event. Look at that draw, 77%. That's a huge number.
It's a huge number, and you can see it on a local level. I don't know if any other arts organizations have asked this question, but we kind of try to poll our audience and find out how many of them, we have a lot of snowbirds, right?
Yes.
So when it's hot, like the dog days of summer we're in now, they are in Boston or Pennsylvania or Delaware or New York, and cooling off while we're down here. Well, many of our snowbirds come home based on our calendar.
Right.
So if I've got a really great show that's happening maybe in mid-October before the snowbird would likely come back, they will sometimes come early just to attend that show. So it is driving people to communities.
Absolutely. It's that idea that people are centralizing where they want to be around the arts and culture.
For sure.
And you can see that in so
For
many other
sure.
facets too. Like we can look at corporations. They move their headquarters to vibrant cities where they know people will want to move to, right?
Absolutely.
And the arts and culture are a huge, huge part of that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very cool. That's very cool.
Yeah. And that's why I love this study, because also we have this added layer that it's not just about driving economy, but driving people, driving communities. And we can talk about numbers and funding and money all day long, but what needs to be talked about the most is the people behind it, right?
For sure.
And if they aren't in a place, in a space, in a community that is supporting them, that is supporting their drivers, then they're not going to be there anymore.
No.
And that money is all gone.
That money is gone, and the vitality of that location is reduced.
Mm-hmm. And you
know?
see that happen when in rural communities, main streets have to close. And then there's not this sense of community. There's not this draw of togetherness. You're separated by miles and miles and miles, and you're in your own places, in your farms,
For sure.
in these smaller rural communities. And what drives them to their center, to their city centers, is the arts and culture.
For sure.
And when you're being able to light up Main Street in that way, or main streets in that way, it allows people to come together. It allows people to even put their money into other local businesses. But without that draw, it's very hard to keep people engaged in that centralized community value, right?
Well, I couldn't have written it better, and I think we're at our perfect spot, but I think I'm going to invite you back because I have a feeling that maybe you should spend the night the next time you come, and we'll hang out. We'll go to a show at Arts Garage, and we'll hang out as well as do another podcast
Absolutely
episode.
perfect. I mean, I could go so far into advocacy all day long, and you know how we can really activate the people in this community. But education, like you said, education, understanding where their money is going to, that's a huge part of allowing and showing and bringing out the passion in people for a cause like this.
For sure. So I will say in summary that we do want to remember that art is not just about fun and beauty and personal experiences. It drives the economy on a level that most of us are unaware of. So I really appreciate you bringing your expertise. I hope that anybody listening will follow the show on your favorite podcast platform and share with everyone you know what we're doing. We'll have a lot of really cool guests. We'd love a review. You can do that on the platform that you're viewing the podcast on. And if you wanted to give us some feedback or an idea for a future podcast theme or for a guest, you can email us at info@artsgarage.org. Okay, Morgan, I can't thank you enough for joining me, for helping me make a case for the arts. I hope to hear from all of our listeners, and I will see you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.